I like to think consumption models. So a lot of people talk, first, second, third platform, and my problem with something like that is I've got customers I talk to who actually have a mainframe, and they're almost doing third platform applications at the back end or at the front end of it. So therefore, why should mainframe be classified as first platform if it's actually servicing that market? So then I kind of look consumption models. And for me, it's only 4. There's on-premise, then there's virtualization, hybrid, and then there's born in the cloud. And really, the first 3 have a proponent of a data center which is basically owned and managed by the customer, and then it's about efficiency. The very far one, born in the cloud, that's really a completely different game. That really is when you're in the cloud, your data center becomes the cloud. And what you need to do is to do the data protection or the protection storage architecture, and you need to provide that level of service regardless of which consumption model you're in. And that's kind of our mantra, saying service those, allow a customer to have it, and then no matter where you are in the journey, we should be able to fulfill. How do we basically take each of these consumption models and fill? So what extra do we need to do if you're tipping towards future? And you're allowed 3 minutes to discuss this.
Excellent. All right, so let's dive in. I'm going to give you the answer in one word: metadata. The future of data protection is in metadata. It's that information about your infrastructure, about your applications, the information about your information. Who owns it, the tags, the keywords that are associated with it. That's what's going to move us forward.
So I fill both of these with just that one word.
Okay, so let me break it into sort of 3 more concrete areas. All right, so the first one, let's call it hybrid cloud mobility. All right, so think of this very much as kind of what Alex was saying about being a data-driven company. You need the right data in the right place to drive the business. And that means that at times you might want to leverage some more dynamic infrastructure, maybe for some making data available to someone else, or disaster recovery, or I want to run some analytics on something. And you want to be able to move it where you need to be able to move it. But you need to understand where you can move it to and what tools can efficiently move it there, and then the downstream effect of, if I move it, is my protection still going to be there? And so that's that infrastructure analytics I need, and the metadata that goes with it. The second is, if I'm talking about applications, it's not enough to just spin the storage up somewhere, even just a database. I need to know how these apps are tied together so I can actually make it functional when I do tend to move it from wherever it needs to be in the cloud. And that's that application intelligence, that application metadata. So data mobility is really the lifeblood of the hybrid cloud, and metadata is how you're going to make it work.
So that's 1, right?
So that's 1.
Okay.
All right, number 2, let's talk a little bit about analytics-driven automation.
Now you're in my world, right?
Yeah, see,
my obsession.
Exactly.
Right.
So you've heard of big data, I'm guessing.
And small data sprawl.
Ah, there we go.
Okay.
Right. So the main thing here, especially you look at that hybrid cloud, that gut instinct of how to manage an IT environment, that doesn't work anymore. But I meet a lot of customers who say, okay, I've gathered all the metadata into this lake. Now what? Or you've got others who said, no, I've gone all the way to doing analytics, and now I'm just buried in reports and dashboards. This isn't helping me take action. And this is really the next step that we need to take to really get to simplicity. I'll give you a really simple example. Question that comes up all the time in these events. Am I getting the most I can out of my data domain? Am I getting the right dedupe rate? Am I getting the right performance? Should I be upgrading? Should I add more storage? Should I look at a different type of protection storage? And right now, the answer to that is based on some experience and a lot of black magic. But we can do better. Right? These systems actually are sending telemetry to us constantly, and we can feed those into a Greenplum database, analyze them, apply algorithms to say, yes, your system is in the real world sweet spot, not just the white paper sweet spot, but the real world, you're where everybody's happy, or you're an outlier, and we can help you figure out how to get into that sweet spot. Now, the cool thing is you think I'm making this up, right?
Yeah.
This is actually already real. So there are customers who are getting calls from their sales reps that say, in 90 days, you're going to run out of space. Let us help you. That's really where big data gets interesting. It stops being, sound and fury signifying nothing, and it starts being action-oriented.
So kind of, let's just say, using what we have with our current management tools, and then doing things like some network of machines, as you would like to call it, and then crowdsourcing for optimization, that kind of stuff.
In a lot of ways, in some ways, you hear about this whole Internet of Things, right? Yeah. And to me, that's like the early days of the Internet. Lots of lonely little devices, publishing terabytes of data, hoping that someone's listening, and they're not. What we really need is a social network of machines that connect to each other so we see the interrelationships, and then connect to humans so we can take action on it.
So what do you got?
So number 3, cloud-centric data management. All right, this one's pretty simple, right? There are certain applications that they're born in the cloud, they live in the cloud, they're going to die in the cloud. And the question is, as they become more business critical, how do you keep them safe? And I think of this as basically 3 things. The first is, I need the metadata about that cloud provider's infrastructure, I need their logs, to be able to really verify that I'm getting the service I expect. So trust but verify. Second, if I want to be able to move that data somewhere else, either within that cloud provider or to another cloud provider, I should have that mechanism. Sounds a lot like the hybrid cloud mobility.
Yeah.
And then the third one is, there will come a day when someone comes to you and says, I need this data back. And you're going to have to search across on-premise and your off-premise. And you're going to want that single source of truth, that single source of metadata, so you can find what you need when you need it.
So in other words, you kind of look at it and you go, I'm in the cloud, right? I've got my major data centers in the cloud, but what I want to do is, how do I then do data protection with the cloud? I've got to do things like cloud to cloud.
Exactly.
Right, and the problem is, it's almost like everybody knows that, all right, so cloud might have the cost economics, but how do I get stuff out if I want to move it somewhere else? So you need, let's just call it a hypervisor for cloud, for the back end, for data protection.
All based on the metadata, so you know what's going on.